The first 5 days of creation, God created everything in preparation for what would be the crown jewel of his creation, which is man. You see, God made man so special. He made him in his own image, in the image and likeness of God. We see this in Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. And God gave man a special position in his kingdom. Man was made just a little bit lower than God. God crowned him with glory and honor, gave him authority and dominion over all his creation. This is shown in Psalm chapter 8, verses 4 and 5. But this must not have been good enough for the original man, Adam, because he gave it all away. He obeyed what the enemy told him to do. And we can see in Romans chapter 6, verse 16 that to whom we present ourselves slaves to obey, we are that one slaves whom we're obeying. And so because Adam obeyed the enemy, he became his slave and took on his nature. And in a sense, he was born, reborn, born again into that sin nature, that nature of the enemy. And so then, being children of Adam, every person that was born after him was born with that same nature. You see, man at that time fell and lost his special place with God. He died spiritually. But God found a way to take care of all of that by sending Jesus to become our righteousness. You see, man was striving to do the works of the law and to do whatever works he could do to try to make himself righteous with God, to return to that pre-fallen condition, that pre-fallen nature, and to have God's righteousness and to have that authority and dominion. But man could not do it on his own. And in that condition, man was nothing more than a servant of God. We had no way of achieving righteousness on our own. So what God did is send Jesus to become righteousness for us. The righteousness that he was giving us was a free gift of God. And this is nothing that we can earn. It is a gift. It's free. What we have to do is accept it. This is shown in Romans chapter 5, verse 17. And that moment on the cross when Jesus took upon himself our sin nature is that same moment that he gave to us the righteousness, the nature of God, which is righteousness. So then we, at that exact moment, we all became righteous, all of us who accepted his sacrifice. And he took upon himself the nature that we had, which is that sin nature. So at that moment, we had restored to us everything that was lost in the garden. That authority, that dominion, God's protection, God's favor, and that God's righteousness, most importantly. You see, without righteousness, we cannot approach God. You see, righteousness is the ability to be in God's presence without a sense of inferiority or guilt, feeling that we belong there. And now, because of what Jesus did, we're no longer slaves, but we have become children of God and heirs of all that he has, which is Galatians 4, verses 4 through 7. See, man was once subject to the law of sin and death, but that's no longer. He's now subject to the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus. So then everything that Jesus has is ours. The blessings that were given to Abraham because Jesus was the seed of Abraham are given to him and now are ours because we accept Jesus' sacrifice. And because of his righteousness, we are able to obtain those. And all of the blessings and promises of the new covenant are now ours. We're now in the same position with God that Jesus has, and we have the right to fully share in his inheritance. This is Romans 8, 15 through 17. See, God has called us now into the fellowship of his Son, Jesus. And what this fellowship is a sharing, a partnership. See, we are now partners with Jesus in this world. And this fellowship, this partnership can never be disrupted, can never be taken away. This is eternal. No matter what we do, we have God's righteousness because of what Jesus did. Every sin we could ever commit that would take us away from God's fellowship is undone. God takes it away. He remembers it no more because of the sacrifice of Jesus. So when God looks at us, he sees us like Jesus, like we are Jesus. And so because of this, because of everything that Jesus did, because of God's great plan to bring that righteousness back to us, Let us live our lives seeking God first and striving to do everything we can to live righteously.